Hey everybody, welcome to Ready Steady Play. We're getting ready to play Star Trek Ascendancy.
Yes.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
Star Trek Ascendancy, I'm joined by Ben.
Oh, hi, I'm Ben, yeah, hi.
I need him to explain most of the mechanics. But I'm just going to give you an overview, which is, this is the Star Trek game mashed up with 4X. So we did play Fleet Captains. This is a little different. Mm-hmm. This is a game in which we're commanding vast fleets of ship going out into space, exploring, expanding,
Exploiting,
exterminating. That's right. Yeah, I thought it was exterminating.
Yeah, you're
Those
unsure.
are E's, man.
Yeah.
They're E's. It bothers me every time.
That X is.
Bothers me every time. Anyway, so some people have said it doesn't feel very Star Trek-y. We think it could, but we're going to find out that in the gameplay. So in order to understand what's going on, Ben's going to explain the mechanics.
Yes. So it is a 3-player game. Well, I mean, it's best with 3. It's sort of designed for 3. We're waiting on... Ollie will be joining us. Just hang on for him.
The Klingons are tardy.
There's 2 win conditions. We'll start with the win conditions. The first win condition is to ascend. Everyone starts with an Ascendancy token. You can buy these with a resource known as culture. I'll explain how you generate culture in a second. Do we have any culture tokens to show?
Yes.
So you need 5 of these. And if at any point you have 5 of these things, they also cost 5 to build. And you control your home sector. We've all set up our home sectors. You win the game.
Yep.
The other way to win is you control your own home sector and everyone else's home sectors. That's like the full elimination win. So set up for the board. We don't really have a lot of space here, and it's kind of recommended to do this on a 3x3 sort of board. But as long as you agree on a fixed distance between all the planets, so these are all equidistant, and you agree on how far from any edge a planet can be, because we're going to be putting on planets and connecting them up with lanes. But until then, that's what you have to agree on for setup. Like I said, everyone starts with an Ascendancy token. Everyone starts with 5 command tokens. They're essentially your actions. Everyone starts with their starting advancement. You've got to get that out of the game. Apart from that, your home sector starts with 3 ships and a control token, which is the thing in the middle, and 1 of each resource node. Each resource node will generate the corresponding type of resource. The 3
exploiting thing, this is us exploiting resources.
This is the exploiting. So you've got the yellow one, which is culture. That's how you get the ascendancy things. And you also use that to colonize new planets. You've got the red one, which is production. That lets you build more nodes and ships. And finally, you've got the research node, which lets you do more advancements. So like I say, you have a starting advancement, and you're going to be getting more of these, which let you break the game rules in many fun ways. So, everyone has a different starting one. Another way to get culture, just while we're here, is we all have different... So here we've got the Romulans, we've got the Federation, and the Klingons. They all have a sort of positive and negative ability. So the positive ability is how they generate culture. So just take Federation, for example. Whenever they find new civilizations, they get a culture. And like I said, 5 gets you another Ascendancy. So I think that's it for the
not
setup.
quite. You also start with 3 fleet options. The fleet options are double-sided, and at the beginning of the game, you decide which way up you want them.
You can change them as you go.
Can you?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. But we'll be house ruling that.
Okay, cool.
Just to make it quicker. But yeah. Okay. Anyway, but when you play your game, you can, as you make them, you can choose which side to use, and they have various abilities. When we build ships in this setup explanation, you'll see how they work. You also you stack this exploration deck. There are 2 kinds of, it'll say in the rulebook, but there are 2 kinds of there's phenomenons and planets. That's a planet. That's a phenomenon, as you can see. You're going to take out all the phenomenons, and you're going to shuffle all the planets together. Deal out 6 planets. Leave them to the side, shuffle everything back together, and then put those 6 planets on the top. So the first 6 things people find won't be phenomenons. That's essentially what it means. Yes, so that's it. Shuffle your exploration deck. You've set out your space lanes, and that is set up. So let's jump into the rules for the first phase. So for the first phase, or for the first part of every round, everyone's going to decide on a turn order. So while none of the home systems are connected, which is known as, or once they become connected by any space lanes, that's known as first contact. But until then, you're just going to shuffle these out and give 1 to each player, and that will determine the turn order. Later on, once home systems are connected, you'll be able to bid your resources by stacking them on in turn order. So if I went first last time, I would choose first how many resources I want to go on here. if I put, let's say, that many, which is 5, and then whoever's player 2 suddenly, okay, 6, if player 2 wants to put 0, he can just put 0 and he'll go second. If he puts more than that, he can then have first pick. Otherwise, at the moment, player 1 is going to be having the most resources. But like I said, there we go. So whoever went second last time is probably going to get first pick, and then whoever went third will also get to put resources. There's absolutely no point putting resources unless he can top one of them. So yeah, but until there's first contact, this is all going to be random anyway. So let's move on to the next phase, which is the building phase. So what we have here is the building phase card. Each player is going to go through a building phase and then a command phase before play passes on to the next player. In the build phase, for now I'm just going to explain, that in your first turns you're probably just going to be building ships because you're not going to have anywhere to colonize. But in this phase you can spend resources to build nodes, which can either be the control node or any of the appropriate production nodes, or research node or culture node. You can also commit research, and research is these things here. So when you find advancements, before they become advancements, they're projects, you can spend your science resource, 1 per turn, or 1 per turn per project, to advance this. Whenever this number matches that, you automatically complete it and you get the benefits on it, which are those great game-breaking things we talked about. There are also some symbols here I'll explain in a bit. This one, in the case of the Romulans, just means that whenever they do complete an advancement with one of these tokens, they get a free culture resource. So let's say I have a planet here. I can use my resources to colonize this planet. The way it works is you have to discard a ship orbiting the planet. You can, if you have lots of ships, it doesn't really matter. You just get rid of one, and you spend a culture to then put down a control node, like this, boop. Then you can spend resources plugging stuff in, but you're limited by the symbols alongside the planet. So in this case, this planet can have a production, a research, and any other kind. So if I wanted to, I could do a production for 2 production costs, which lets me put down a red one right here. But if instead of building the research, I could build another production. I could build another production for 2 more resources and have 2. And I could also build a research one if I had the resources available. So you can do as many of these as you want, as many times as you want on your turn. You can also build ships. You can only build ships in 2 places. You can only build ships at your home sector, and you can only build ships in a place you have a star base. Now, star bases are free to put down, but they have to go in sectors you control, and you have a limit of 3 for the entire game, and you can only put 1 per level of Ascendancy. You have up to 3. So at Ascendancy level 1, I can only put down 1. At Ascendancy level 2, I could put down this in another home sector. They also give you a bonus for space battles, which we'll explain in a sec, but for now, you can basically, they're outposts to build more spaceships in places which aren't your home base. So, in this example, I'm going to show you how the command phase works. Something to mention is that you start with 5 commands. You can spend commands to do each of these actions on your turn. By spending a command, you turn it over to the exhausted side, and you've got an exhausted command. So that's a resource. When you build a starbase on your turn, you actually gain an additional command, but it's exhausted. And in the recharge phase at the end of the round, it'll flip back, and next round you'll have an additional command to spend from. Other things give you command tokens, such as certain advancements that have there's one, there you go, that have the command token on it. But for now, we're just going to show you an example with 5. So the first possible thing you can do is you can move. So you can spend 1 to move a ship. There's 2 ways of moving. You can move at impulse or warp speed. So if you move at impulse speed, you just move 2 spaces like that along a space lane. Normally you start without a space lane. So this would probably be this wouldn't be the case, because this would probably be the home planet. But let's say this was here. You'd move 2 along there, and then you could spend another 2 to move into an unexplored sector. When that happens, you draw a new planet like this, and assuming there's no hazards on the planet, in which case there aren't, you can move straight in there and draw your exploration card. And the exploration cards do certain things. This is a civilization you can find. This is a virgin planet, which means there's nothing on it. This is a crisis where bad stuff can happen.
Yes, the tribbles made it in.
But yeah, for now, let's just say this was a virgin planet and nothing bad happens. On the next turn, I'd be able to spend this to colonize it, but for now, I can't. So another thing you can do is you can commission a battle group. So here are the battle group cards. I'll just show you an example with the strike group, just because it's simple. So here's the strike group. If I had 3 ships in this sector, because you always need at least 3 for any battle group. Oh no, this is a fleet, sorry. You need at least 3 ships for any fleet, regardless of its type. So if I spent...
Though they're highlighted on the bottom.
They're highlighted. So these are additional ones you can put in, but there's different capacities for different kinds of fleets. So if I spent 1 command, I could load these three dudes up into this battle group here. And then I look for the number 2 fleet dude. Where is he? Oh, there he is, which is there. And he'll go in there. So now the advantage of that is I only need to spend 1 command token in order to move him. So the other kind of movement is warp. To place a ship into warp, you just exhaust 1 command. You put that ship or fleet outside into just empty space. You put a warp token pointing the sector you left from to show that that's where you started. And then you could spend another command to exit warp or to add warp tokens. Now the way warp tokens work is for each warp token you can jump an entire sector. So right now I could spend another one to just jump to here, because that's 1 warp token lets me move 1 space. I could spend more of these to add warp tokens onto this ship. In the recharge phase you also gain more warp tokens. But the advantage of having more is if you have more sort of connected space like this, you can make like a full jump in one action to another system. You can also explore this way. So yeah, there we have Vulcus 4.
You can actually, you can explore. So if you're going to warp from here to Valkus, you could actually, if you had enough, warp straight into a new planet.
Yeah, and then you could discover that planet as well.
Mm-hmm. If there were 2 existing planets, you can warp between them, can you not?
Yeah, but that's with
finding a new space lane.
Yeah, but we'll come on to that in a second. Ooh. So something we missed about putting down space lanes is that you roll a dice every time you want to find a space lane. So there's a space lane dice over here, and you roll that, and it either can be a 2, a 3, or a 4. So if you roll a 3, you get the 3 length space lane like this. This is a 4 length like that, and you just put that down, and then you move along it in any orientation you want. Systems are essentially fixed if they have 2 space lanes coming out of them. If they don't, so in this case, where there's just 1 lane, I could swing this around in any orientation I wanted, and then add another lane to it like that. And then once that lane's been added, this is now a fixed system because there's 2 lanes connecting it. Actually, no, if there's another system connected to it. Yeah. So I could freely move these 2 lanes around like this and put like a system down in any orientation I wanted. Mm-hmm. Okay, so whenever a ship or group of ships moves into an area with this hazard icon at the top, you have to roll a dice for each ship in the fleet, or if it's just one ship, and adding the shields to this value. So I'll explain shields in a sec, stuff you can upgrade. You just kill off ships. So in this case, this is a battle group with three ships there. I would roll 3 dice, and on 5s and 6s, which I've got 1, that would be killing off ships. Now, because now there's not 3 ships in the fleet, this then goes away and they're replaced with these 2 ships. So they now have to take their actions separately rather than move as a fleet.
Probably worth mentioning, much to the enjoyment of the player to your right, those hazard dice are rolled by him or her instead of you.
Yes, the player to the right always rolls a hazard dice. So once you have done a hazard, and even in a system without a hazard, except phenomenons, you then draw one of those exclamation cards we mentioned. So I'm going to show an example with a warp-capable planet, because this is where we make it a bit interesting. So when you come across a warp-capable planet, you check out the level, and you build the planet as a sort of neutral base without a control node. So for this one, it says develop up to 2 resource nodes in priority order, which basically means going from production to resource to culture. In that order, build nodes up to 2. So we start with the production one, and then we put down a research one. And then if it was a warp 3 planet, we'd then put another production one down. So there you go. So that's now an uncontrolled warp-capable planet, and then you put 2 warp tokens on there, so you don't need to keep the card out. You know that it's a warp 2 planet, because you just, to work out the weapon hit roll, which I'll explain how it works in a second, you just do 6 minus the number, and then the shields and the hegemony resistance values is equal to the warp number. So for a warp-capable 1 or 3, it will have 3 warp tokens like this, which means you do 6 minus 3 gives you 3 and 3 and 3. And for a warp-capable level 1, it would be 5 and 1 and 1. Cool. So let's do an example with a warp-capable level 2. So now there are several ways you can tackle this. So let's say our battle group is still up and running, which is fun. So the battle group can either attack the planet, doing a planetary assault, or a system invasion, or it can do hegemony, or
huge money.
Huge money. So the way you do an invasion, you take the number of ships that are attacking, and you roll dice simultaneously against the planet that will be shooting back at you. The planet gets dice equal to the number of nodes, and it needs to hit on 4 pluses. Your ships need to hit based on your weapons value. So I'm going to show you the player board now. So to start with, players hit things on 5 pluses, and their shields start at 0. During that building phase, you can spend science to upgrade this. So if I spent 4, I would actually have 4 pluses. Let's just say I did that on my turn. But my shields are going to be 0, which means the enemy only also needs 4 pluses to score hits. Oh, but they actually add to their shield. So in this example, though I need to hit on 4 pluses, because they're a warp 2 planet, they have a shield of 2. So they add 2 to my 4 plus hits, which means I need 6s in order to actually invade this planet. So combat will just happens in several rounds until someone gives up. But, obviously the system won't give up. So it's only if I choose to retreat or not. So I will roll dice equal to my dudes. So I've rolled pretty good there. I rolled 2 6s, which is nice. But because attacking happens simultaneously, unless you have an ability called First Strike, the planet's going to roll as well. Planet rolls 2 dice, hitting on 4s. Will also take out 2 of my ships. So we take casualties. So 2 of my ships get done, like that. There are no ships in the sector, so they don't get destroyed. Now, there are 3 options that can happen here when attacking a planet. If you roll hits, so I've rolled 2 hits. If I'd rolled 1 hit, I would just destroy one of these nodes. And then another round of combat would happen, and this planet would get 1 dice, and I would get 1 dice. If I rolled more than 2 hits, if I rolled 3 hits, I don't destroy any, and I can just take control of the planet immediately, because I've rolled greater than the number of nodes in the planet.
Overwhelming force.
Yeah.
Complete conquest.
Complete conquest. But because I rolled 2 hits, which equals the number of nodes, and you also include, if you're fighting a player, you include the player's control node. Because I rolled 2 hits, and there are 2 nodes, I actually do a full elimination and completely raise the planet, which is kind of bad. It means I need to spend a whole turn colonizing it to then get the benefits from the planet, or to exploit it.
To rebuild it.
Yeah. So that's how invading a system works. Let's just show you a quick example with how hegemony works. Hegemony. So I need 2 culture tokens in order to explain this example. Mike, if you please. So let's just say I've got 1. Thanks, Mike. So the way you try and take over a planet, let's put those 2 nodes back in there. So without attacking a planet, you can... Okay, without attacking that's just going to confuse people. So without attacking a planet, you can just diplomatically take it over with hegemony. That's how you say it.
Hegemony. Yeah.
Hegemony. Okay. So first you must expend a culture to attempt the roll. The way you work out the roll is you need to roll your current ascendancy value, which everyone starts with 1, and you need to exceed the planet's warp level if it's a warp-based planet, plus the number of nodes in the planet. So in this case, I would need to beat 4, and I'll have +1 to my roll. So I roll my dice, that's a 3 + 1, which is 4. It equals it. It doesn't exceed it, so I wouldn't do it. If I had exceeded it, I would then have to spend a second culture token, because it costs 2, 1 to attempt and 1 if you're successful. And in that case, without causing any bloodshed, I would put my control token straight in there, and I've assimilated the neutral colony to join my ranks.
So how does taking over a planet controlled by a player differ to a neutral planet?
I'll tell you. So in this example, we're going to show a planetary invasion and a space battle, actually, because there is a ship defending this sector against 2 players. So here the Federation have 3 ships and the Romulans have 1 ship and their sort of and their colony down here. So in order to do what's known as a system invasion or invade system, you must first do a space battle and take out all the enemy ships. You can only invade when there are no enemy ships in the sector. So the way you do it is you initiate a space battle. It's very simple. You roll off the shields versus the weapons of both the players. And your hit points are essentially... The number of dice you roll is equal to the number of ships. And whoever retreats or runs out of dice, essentially, runs out of ships, loses. If you win, you can do a tactical maneuver. So usually you start a battle from an adjacent space like this. And when you win, so let's say the Federation did kill the ship, they can make a free maneuver, which is called a tactical maneuver, of 2 spaces. So they would usually move in. So you can attack from adjacent spaces or from the same space, depending on how you've ended up in that situation. There are things like trade agreements which alter that rule, which we'll explain in a sec. So, in this situation, the Federation are now able to make a planetary invasion. They will be rolling 3 dice plus their attack value, or meeting their hit value, versus the defense of the player who owns this. So your shields on your player boards apply to your ships and your planetary defenses. The planet will also shoot back with 3 dice, as there is a control node and 2 resource nodes on that planet. The same rules apply. So if the in this case it's not possible, but let's say like this, if the Federation rolled 3 hits, they would just take a full control of the planet. But because they can't exceed, because they're rolling 3 dice, they can either completely raise it or knock 1 off and go into another round of combat. One other action you can do on your turn is you can do this launch projects thing, where you take 2 projects and you can place them into your projects area and start work on them. But you're limited to the number of these nodes you control, these resource nodes. So if you only have 1 of these, you could draw 2, put 1 in, and discard the other one by putting it at the bottom of your deck. You can then on your next turn start putting research on this. So on your first turn you won't have any of these. You'll have to spend a turn to actually get the project out and then start putting resources on it in order to research it. Now I'm going to show you how trade agreements work. Whenever a ship is adjacent to an enemy controlled token or an enemy ship, like this, if that wasn't there, one player could offer, whoever's turn it is, could offer a trade agreement. Every player has 3 trade agreement cards. These give you this amount of production every turn, and they're the same for each empire. So let's say me and the Federation came and met the Romulans. They could say, "Oh, I'll give you 1 of mine for 1 of yours. So I'll give you my 3 for your 3. So, or you give me your 1. Okay, let's just say that happened, like it ever would. So this means now the Federation will be getting 3 production bonus at the beginning of every round, or beginning of each of their turns, and I'll be getting just 1. Maybe I'm in the lead and he didn't want to give me too many. So that's how that works. You can never move into an enemy controlled sector unless you have permission from them. If you're at peace, you can just move in sort of freely. No, you can't. You still need permission.
You still need permission.
But if not, you can never move in. If your guys don't have a trade agreement, you're considered hostile to each other. You can never move into an enemy controlled sector if there are enemy ships there. If this was the case, you could just move in for fun. But if this was the case, you'd have to make an attack from the adjacent sector and then move in with your tactical maneuver after the space battle. In this example, we have a Romulan ship encountering a phenomenon, which they move into. So, each Romulan has a research token on it. Like hazardous planets, you have to roll for the hazard check here, so the player to my right will roll. In this case, I would just die and nothing would happen, which is pretty lame. But if I survive, let's say I survived, I wouldn't get an exploration card. That only happens for non-phenomenon planets. I do, however, get the research token, which is useful. I can put this directly onto one of my projects, or I can just put it into my token pool. In the recharge step, which we'll now explain, these will go back on these planets. So people can keep researching these planets, these phenomenons, to get research points and advance their projects. So that's how you sort of science the game. The other things that happen in the recharge step is you get any ships in warp of a planet, get an additional warp token. Any command tokens that are exhausted, which is usually all of them, will get flipped face up. If for any reason you have a trade agreement that's exhausted, you flip it face up. Any advancements that you used by exhausting them are flipped face up. Another thing to mention is if you do complete an advancement with these warp icons, that gives you a bonus to your warp movement. So in this case, this ship, once it exits warp, will be able to move 2 plus 2 spaces or systems. This is a home planet of Earth.
In the recharge step, you also gain resources from every node you have that matches the resource of that type. If you only have your home planet, you would gain this many resources.
Correct. Very good. Another thing to mention is when you are leaving a system through remove action, there is a number here which is the maximum number of connections allowed on that planet. So if this had 2, like this, you could explore out this way or that way, adding another space lane to it after rolling the space lane dice, which would have been a 4 in this case, because it's a 4 lane. If there was already 3 here, you couldn't actually explore out. You could only move along the space lanes already connected to it. Some systems have like really high numbers, which means they can have loads of connections to it.
In the recharge phase, you also get the trade agreement production stuff.
Yes.
The recharge phase is also when you win the game if you have victory conditions.
Yeah. So the first thing you do in the recharge phase is you check for victory, which is control a home planet and either control everyone else's or have 5 of these Ascendancy tokens.
Note that control is determined by the presence of a node of your color.
Yep. Finally, with the fleets, when you build ships, if you ever build 3 or more ships, you can put them directly into a fleet without having to spend a command token to put them in that fleet. So if I just had 5 production and I built 5 ships, I could just whack them all into a battle group and be like, brrr. But the number of battle groups you can have out is limited to the number of Ascendancy tokens. So at the beginning of the game, you can only have 1 fleet in play. You can't use all 3 of your fleets until you have 3 Ascendancy tokens. Though you can at any time disband a fleet and build a new one if you want to swap between the different kinds of fleets. Also, before and after moving, you can freely add and remove ships from a fleet. So if we were like finishing my movement into the sector and I wanted to just poop out one of these ships, I totally could. And also if I was about to start moving and I wanted to add this to my fleet, well, not, yeah, if it wasn't full, I could then do that too. So here's our mess. And that's it for the rules.
So that's just about it for the rules explanation. I feel like we more or less covered everything.
Yeah, in some way.
In some way, we got it all in there. So we hope that you'll come back tomorrow to join us for our gameplay, starting with the 3 of us playing. Ollie will be joining us to play the Klingons. And, if you enjoyed this rules explanation, please be sure to check out our other videos. Check us out on Facebook, Ready Steady Play, where we'll be talking about what games we're going to play coming up. Leave a like on the video if you appreciate it, and leave a comment to let us know your feedback and anything else that might be going on in your brain.
That's very useful feedback.
Mm-hmm. Live long and prosper.